shit?
It's not gonna be 3-hour shit.
Okay, good. That's fucking Jerome's loud ass.
You are live.
Live. We're not live.
You're
Wait a
live.
minute.
Now
You're-
we're live.
We're live?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're like a minute early.
Said so in the
Yeah,
corner.
it's still 6:59, so I ain't got shit to say yet.
If anybody has a resume for producer day,
Now it's 7:00. How you doing? How you doing?
I'm doing fucking good, actually.
You know what you should do? I'm Gizz Lazlo,
I'm just Paul.
and welcome to our show. Another Monday,
Hello,
episode
people.
37.
38? 7,
37
9?
in a row.
37
in a row, and another
right.
fucking
39. No, that's 40. It's 41. Oh, that's the timer.
I was like, what the hell are you looking at? Oh, fuck.
How's your week, amigo?
It's been a fucking hell of a week, man.
Awesome.
Dealing with family, my mom. There's a cousin of mine who's not doing very well. So I've had to go see him a few times, and it's not looking good. Music wise,
New single?
new single dropped.
Ta-da!
I can't believe I just
Funny,
said
I knew
dropped.
that before
Yeah,
you
one,
did.
One More Day from Foreclosure just came out a few days ago.
I know.
They finally announced the album's coming out
Yes.
on November 8th.
It's already
on
platinum,
9
right?
Power. It's most of the album's already played.
It's platinum.
Platinum.
Yeah,
More
it's
like plastic.
Oh, okay.
And
Tinfoil. Sorry, Mark.
we officially have the new LA Slumlords lineup now, and I think it's really good. Everybody gets along really well. No egos. It's just
Do you want to say it, or you want to wait for?
I'm gonna wait.
You wait for
I don't want to
James?
jinx it. I
Hey,
don't wanna
just
jinx it.
don't burn James's bridge.
Yeah.
It's only about this long.
And
Hi,
then
James.
coincidentally on Thursday
You can't go that
we
way.
rehearsed with the Slumlords, and then on Sunday, yesterday,
Uh-huh.
I went to go audition for another band. And you know what? You know,
I don't have enough time with you.
I like
You
being a
can't go
whore,
that way. Go around.
and
Go around.
so I went to this rehearsal studio that a lot of the bands in the Valley rehearse at, and I walk in, and two of the guys are friends of mine. One is the bass player for the Slumlords.
Okay, what band are we in now?
No name yet.
Oh.
And again, I don't want to even
Okay, we're not saying
mention
we're.
who's in the band yet because
I don't know who your tour manager's going to be.
Damn.
Oh, okay.
Fuck
Now
yeah.
D Boone is now hanging out with
Dude, it sounded like an anchor hit the
The Slime
fucking
Lord
water.
over here.
Wham. But yeah, man, like just music. You know, gotta fill my calendar, man.
I would like you to help me fill my calendar with not what I do for a living.
Well, I think we should do a couple more.
We should do
podcasts.
7 podcasts a week, twice a day.
I would love that. I would
Um,
love that.
One of them could be a rehearsal with just us tards.
Ooh.
I'll play a song you don't know. You'll sing lyrics I don't know. Out of key, as usual.
Anything to hang out with you just one
Dude, I know.
more
Just
day.
a little more fun.
One more day, which is the new single.
Ta-da!
But again, again and again, it happens that we just keep topping ourselves with our guests, and
They do get better every fucking episode.
they are, man. And
Not to diminish the past episodes. You guys are also
no, but
awesome.
They just keep getting better and better, and then
Except for James.
and then like today, again, we have, you know, like I'm actually a little bit nervous because, you know, I know Brock
Because of that.
Pytel, but I've never hung out with him, you know, face to face. We've
not in
video
that band.
chatted maybe once or twice, talked on somebody's phone while we were recording backup vocals to a band song together. So I know him. He's one of my favorite fucking drummers, one of my favorite fucking singers, and he does both. And now he's, you know, he was the original drummer for the Doughboys, which everybody knows is one of my favorite bands. He's
Yep,
the
don't shut up
singer
about
guitar
that.
player now of the Slip-Ons, which are another.
Oh,
fucking
yeah. By the way, if
phenomenal
you don't know
band.
the slip-ons, fucking look up the slip-ons.
So
God
let's-
damn.
let's
It's
go.
not it's just
yeah,
slip-ons.
just Slip-Ons. Yeah, just Slip-Ons.
But not Lonsdale slip-ons, because that's English, and they lost that war.
So let's get Brock in here.
Hey, guys.
Brock
Hey,
guys.
Pytel!
Woo! Congrats on your new release, Gizz.
thank
Release
you,
day.
thank-
Release day is a big deal.
Yeah, it's the
You've-
first vinyl I've actually released in 30 years, I would say.
Are you feeling a big stress relief now that we're at release day, or?
You know, with this band, I have yet to be stressed on anything because there's no expectations. It's 5 friends who just want to play together, and whatever's happening is happening. I have nothing to do with it. You know, everybody else has something to do with the label or the booking. You know, all I get to do is write lyrics and sing.
That's
so perfect. I have nobody depending on me for anything else.
I have to say, I've seen these guys a couple of times, and honestly, it's one of the most easygoing bands I've ever seen. Everybody's like, yeah, great, we're going to do this thing, and we're going to be awesome at it, and fuck you guys. And it is really, it's like, it's comfortable.
Yeah. My favorite part is, as you know, when you go play a show at a dive bar, you get, 1 drink or 2 drink tickets per band member. So for our band, 5 members, 10 drink tickets. No one else drinks. So I get 10 drink tickets.
Which means
I love it.
Gizz can't remember any of the shows.
It's a blessing and a curse for them.
Did he poop in the van again? He doesn't remember. Don't ask him.
I may have peed, but not poop.
You gotta pace yourself, man. That's trouble.
That's not pacing himself at all.
So for stress, though, if you're the lyric writer, your stressful moments are probably as you're getting close to recording vocals and you haven't finished your lyrics yet.
I've never been in a situation where
you spoke English.
No, that I go into a recording studio to actually lay down tracks for a physical release unprepared. You know, I have my own recording studio, so I do demo upon demo upon demo, do my revisions, make sure that I actually, okay, I'm comfortable with the song, and then I can go record it. But I don't want to waste anybody's time. And lately, like even with the Foreclosure record, I did all the initial lead vocals in the recording studio, and then I brought the tracks back with me and did everything vocally, like all my backup vocals, doubles, triples, quadruples, harmonies, again, quadrupled, just send back the engineer like 30, 40 tracks. Like, all right, here you go.
So how far before you started tracking the vocals had you finished all your lyrics that you had to sing?
On this,
like how many days, weeks, months, or whatever? Like at what point, like how much time elapsed between you finishing the lyrics and you recording the vocals? I'm just curious because like this is always like crunch time for me. I'm always like have little bits of things to finish, and I'm like, ooh, time to go.
For this album, every single song was already pretty much like the version that you hear on the record was already done years before.
Oh, wow.
Some songs 5 years, some songs 4, some songs 3. But every single song on this Foreclosure record, that's hence why it's, the band's called Foreclosure, because this was completely supposed to be just a recording. We were never meant to play live. And, that's why we were doing it, Foreclosure. And
there's a longer backstory to it, isn't there?
Yeah. But we're not here to talk about me.
We're talking about Brock. Brock, what was the first band? Well, okay, let's back up even. What the fuck is wrong with your Mexican?
I don't have a lighter.
I could do that for you with. Never mind.
Give him a drumstick.
Yeah. So what inspired you to get into music in the first place, especially punk rock? Like, how'd you get into that? Like, I want to fucking sort of thrash things and be anarchy and punk rock moment. What was it?
I mean, Misery, right? Pain.
Yeah. The movie?
Just sure.
Kathy Bates did it.
We all had a bad.
I mean, like music basically was how I got through. Feeling, struggling when I was a kid. Like I lost my mom when I was 11, and what was me? This before I figured out I was a white male and had like all the advantages in the world. But
But you're white.
Music was the thing that I kind of turned to sort of cope with challenges of being a young dude. So, I basically, I think Neil Young was probably the thing that made me feel like I could pick up a guitar and I could write songs, like, because Neil Young songs are pretty easy, cowboy chords, or a lot of the time, right? And so I think that was the starting point for me, probably.
So you picked up guitar first.
No, I mean, I drummed in school, right? I was, in school bands and the orchestras and whatnot, and used to do and played in bands when I was, a youth. But I don't think we really, that was like pre-punk rock. That was I was into Budgie and Black Sabbath and, Alice Cooper Band and stuff. So
Kiss.
Kiss, the punk rock kind of came, Kiss, Cheap Trick. The punk rock kind of came, in my high school, there was basically the jocks. You still got me?
Yeah, we're here.
There was
he's trying to learn sign language right now, and he's not doing very good at it.
We were all divided up into basically you either played sports or you didn't play sports. That's how socially the lines were drawn in my high school. So and then the further subdivision of the people that didn't play sports, which were collectively called the freaks, and the freaks were made up of the punkers and the rockers. So we were sort of all on one side. In the big picture, in school gym class, it'd be like the jocks versus the freaks. But, in the subdivision, then there was the punks and the rockers, right? So, and John Kastner was he was the punk and I was on the rocker side, so we were sort of rivals in high school.
Oh, but, did you ever fight John Kastner?
No, I fought Paul Remington though in the
no shit.
Yeah, Paul Remington, the drummer from the Asexuals. We fought in high school.
Who won? You did. I know you did.
I don't really remember. Probably he did. I wasn't a very good fighter.
I'm just gonna say
it was one of those things where you're supposed to fight this dude because somebody says he said this about you, and then you gotta go confront the guy and blah blah. I don't even remember what it was all about, but Paul and I haven't seen him in ages, but
maybe there's a reason.
You hurt him. You fucking hurt him. That's why you hurt the man. Where was high school?
Hilarious. High school was in.
He's gonna list a trench coat and a deer rifle.
Yeah, we're only 12 minutes in, and I'm already digging my own grave here. This is terrible.
So where was high school?
High school was in Montreal, in a town called Beaconsfield. So suburb, West Island of Montreal.
Cold.
Okay,
yeah, it was very cold for sure.
Here's a question I've never asked about Doughboys. Where are the Doughboys really from?
Canada.
Obviously Montreal, but what city did the band get created in?
The sub city of Montreal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Montreal's Quebec. Everybody knows Quebec.
Yeah, Montreal for sure. But I mean, our earliest rehearsal space. I mean, our first rehearsal space, we broke into the fail-safe rehearsal space. It wasn't ours. We climbed over the thing and I broke the guys. I broke Ewan's bass drum head. Sorry, Ewan.
Nobody believes me, but I think Canadians are actually very quietly, very subtly fucking super evil. Oh no, Canadians are known as the friendliest people in the world because they're just so good at not being friendly people. We didn't fucking notice.
It's just a collective passive aggressiveness, maybe, who knows?
No, not even that. You do it so well that nobody fucking figures it out. Well, blame Mexico. That's all they can do. I don't know how the babies all died.
To answer your question, though, I think probably the formative Doughboys days, we were all living in an area of Montreal which would have been called the Plateau Montréal. It's probably super gentrified now because it basically everybody moved further north into what's called Mile End, and then we got kind of pushed out of Mile End, and then Bond Head moved from Mile End to Verdun. So, but yeah, we were all kind of living in the plateau at that point.
That's interesting. So is it Verdun, not Verdun?
I mean, if you're saying it in English, it's Verdun, If
okay.
you're saying it in French, you're saying Verdun. But I mean, Quebecois people in Montreal, they use a lot of English words, right? The language is joual, they call it horse French is what it's coarsely translated as. It basically people from Paris would be offended by the way Montrealers speak French.
Oh yeah, we have so here we have Spanglish, which we call Pig Latin.
Yeah, so same kind of deal, I guess.
Our producer keeps moving the screen around. It's getting very confusing where to look. It's because his fingernails are falling out because of the radiation. It's got to be. All right, so you get in high school, get into a fight with Paul Remington, which is
man.
a story that
this is where we're starting. It's so bad.
I want to save this.
Sorry, Paul.
You should be on the show together with boxing gloves.
Absolutely, you should get Paul on the show. Paul Remington from the Asexuals, ladies and gentlemen.
So how do you find your way into the music scene and then eventually again into the Doughboys? Like how kind of like run me through sort of how that worked out. Like,
well, John and I were like in sort of rival bands, right? John had the Asexuals and they were, doing what they did. And I was in another band called Rogue, and we were like the Alice Cooper, Black Sabbath kind of proggy metal band. And we would play often at the same, shows out Memorial Beach or whatever. And so after high school, like the first year after high school, I was in another band where I was just singing. And I was walking along the street in the Plateau, and Kastner was postering for a Tupelo chain sex show. Like he was walking along with his posters. And he said this was like I guess he had kind of come to the end of Asexuals. And I'm sure he's told that story elsewhere. So I can't give my my take on it. But he basically said, "Are you in a band right now?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm kind of singing in this band." And he said, "Well, are you playing drums in a band right now?" And I said, "No, I don't have a kit right now." And he said to me, "Well, if I get you a kit, will you play in my new band?" And I said, "Sure." So we stayed in touch, and a couple of days, like maybe the next week, we went to this gear rental place in Dorval, which is kind of like a suburb sort of halfway between Montreal and where we grew up. And we basically went, and I picked out this black Ludwig kit, and we did the old rental thing, and Kastner grabbed this old Music Man amp and got that shitty Ibanez guitar that Scott ended up playing on the first tour, and that's kind of where it started, basically. That black kit actually wound up being owned by Bruce Caudron, who used it on the first two Godspeed You Black Emperor records. So I think it's still kind of.
I know, Sean. I know what it looks like.
Has a good track record.
Damn. Just the history behind that kit,
I kept
that would be brilliant. Like, can you track that whole thing down?
When I sold it to Bruce, I kept the 18-inch floor tom. Like it had like 12, 13, 16. And when we I guess when we signed, I can't remember, I ended up buying, like, for the second or the third tour, probably the second tour, I bought a Yamaha kit. And but I kept the 18-inch floor tom. So I sold the whole kit to Bruce except for the 18-inch floor tom. So I kept that. And
full price.
I can't remember. I probably gave it to him for not very much.
You should have like autographed it and sold it for double.
But I always thought it was cool that he ended up using it on those early Godspeed records, because I love those Godspeed records. They're pretty epic.
So good.
Yeah.
And you used a China, right?
On that first tour, I used a Swish that Steve Kravac owned. I didn't have one, but he loaned it to me for that first tour, and it was like this giant Swish cymbal. I think it was like a 20, and it had rivets in it, and it was just like this really annoying fucking cymbal, which I loved, of course. Yeah. And after that first tour, I had to give that back to Steve, so I bought another one. I think my first one was a China Boy High, a Zildjian China Boy High.
I have to. I've told the story several times that The Cure is the band that sold me on. I need to have a China.
He didn't hit it.
Just like heaven. I was just like, where did that sound come from? Where can I get one?
He
I
never hits it. He never hits it, but it's there.
You know, it's a kind of a controversial thing, the China cymbal, honestly. Like Shane, the drummer in my current band, he refuses to use them. He's kind of offended by them. I mean, but is a valid point. Although I think he made an exception when he did like the Keith Miss thing with La Chinga, which is another band around here. So they do this thing on Keith's birthday every year, and they play Rolling Stones songs. And I think he used something to do like that Charlie, he has a little sort of a 16-inch swishy kind of thing that Charlie Watts used to use. But yeah, I mean, I think as far as drummers go, you're either for or against China. This is pretty black and white, right? I mean, Gizz, would you agree? Or
I live, I'll use one or two, depending on the band. Recording, I'll use three.
Three Chinas? Whoa,
yeah.
That's pretty huge.
I have over here, and then I have one right down, right.
I don't know if you've ever watched a video of Gizz, but his hi-hat is actually a hi-hat. Like it's up around eye level when he's sitting down, which is like 2.5 feet.
You cannot see any of the stem on my hi-hat.
Did you say?
Well, that's kind of the Dave Grohl thing, isn't it? I mean, the early Dave Grohl thing. When he was in Scream, I think he had that. Didn't he?
I mean, listen, like hearing drummers talk about drum stuff is really interesting. Like, oh shit, I never thought that many things. Like, as a guitar player, do you play Gibson or do you play Fender?
It's a pretty solid line there as well, right?
Yeah. Do you play PV or do you play these strings? Like, there's not a lot. There is a mountain to it. However, with drums, like you literally have up to 16 different instruments in front of you. Yeah. And now, so are you a match set guy? Like, I want all my drums to be the same brand, or do you mix, match, and screw around and see what comes up?
I'm kind of in the middle there. I don't really care if it's mixed or matched. Like I would probably mix the snare usually. Like I have a 72 Ludwig Vistalite kit, which is the only kit I own right now. And it does have a matching snare. I have the Vistalite snare with it, but I don't use it. I have a 67 Superphonic that I use. I mean, technically that still matches, right? They're both Ludwig, but yeah, I don't care. I don't care. It's more like I said before, I kept that 18-inch floor tom, which was a black wrapped 70s Ludwig, and I used that with this red finished lacquer finished Yamaha kit. I used that all through the second and third Doughboys tours, so I don't care if it's matched or not.
In the studio, I have 4 or 5 different drum kits that I acquired, and I'll always take a couple of different toms, a couple of different floor toms. Usually my kick is my Mapex kick, but everything else.
Tampex? Say Tampex?
Mapex. So, and I have a Mapex snare that fucking is phenomenal. It's deep, and I don't know sizes or anything, but I used it on the last 4 records that I've recorded, and it's just, you just drop your stick on it, bam, it scares everybody in the room. So
I have so many fucking jokes right now.
Shut up.
All right, so let's get into the Doughboys a little bit. You crashed into the Doughboys. You guys, how many albums did you guys do as Doughboys?
Well, I only did the first 2. And we were kind of working up the third, which I guess would have been Happy Accidents, I think.
Yeah.
So probably about half of the songs on Happy Accidents we were playing at the point that I left the band. But so like it was a bit weird to hear those songs on Happy Accidents and not be me playing them. But yeah, I only played on the first 2. And I think they made there's maybe like 7. I don't know how many there are. Gizz?
I think there was 4 or 5 total, right?
See, there was
and
you
can say I don't want to talk about this right now if you want to, but why did you leave the Doughboys?
Well, I mean,
no is an acceptable answer.
It's tough to summarize in one really short
thing,
but I mean,
one dude out.
I mean, at the time when I was 20 years old, I was pretty extreme person. Like whatever I got into it like to 11, right? I wasn't like a very middle kind of person. So like whatever I got into like in an extreme kind of way. And after about, I think maybe the third, well, even during the second tour, I was like looking for meditation techniques and just ways to keep my shit together on tour. You know, I used to travel with a little hot plate to, you know, cook food so I wouldn't, you know, go out of my mind. And so basically I got, by the third tour, I'd taken a 10-day Vipassana course in this particular technique that kind of came down through Burma. And I got a lot of benefit out of it. And I just really kind of dove into it. And because of my extreme nature at the time, I didn't really think, oh, I can meditate and play in a punk rock band, you know, at the same time. I go on retreats when I'm not on tour or what, you know, whatever. It was like, no, I got to give up punk rock and go shave my head and put on robes and be a monk. It was like, I got to do this thing. This is the answer. I really have to do this. So, you know, that's just, you know, and also there was conflict and stuff, and I wasn't really good at resolving a conflict. I didn't really know how to resolve the conflict between myself and John. And it was just, you know, you're 20 years old. You don't know how to deal with difficult situations. So, yeah, I mean, it's the easiest thing to do was to just, you know, we had a mutual friend, Paul Newman, and we'd played shows with his band, No Mind, a couple of times already, and we were good friends, and it just was like really easy. It was like, well, Paul, you want to take over in the band, and I'm going to go to India. And so that's kind of what happened.
I think that's like one of the most diplomatic things I've ever heard in my life. So,
well, I'm Canadian, right? I mean, you know.
Well, exactly. Now we're going back to Canadians being friendly, although they'll sneak under a gate and steal your rehearsal space.
We climbed over. Yeah.
Over.
Yeah.
So you guys can jump really high naturally.
No, we had to climb. It was one of those, you know, like climb through the transom, you know.
Oh, I know.
Had to climb over. It was like hopping a fence, you know. Like, I mean, I'm sure you hop fences when you're a kid running from the cops.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. So many fences. Yeah. So many backyard shows. Like I learned
walk around or I'll dig under, but I learned
to actually look at the neighbors' houses for flashing lights in their windows, because you'd never see them in the backyard you were in. And so I just keep my eyes, I prairie dog and look around like, oh, flashing lights over a fence. I don't like prairie dog. And shut up, Sean. All right. So then you got what was so directly after Doughboys, between there and Slip-Ons, what do you have?
Oh, 13 years of marriage, raised a kid, you know, a couple of, you know, various other types of bands. I worked with a bunch of guys in Seattle for a while that are kind of in the Robert Fripp guitar craft kind of world. And so I, you know, learned a bunch of things with them, did a guitar craft course with Robert and tried to, you know, learn how to play guitar a bit. And, you know, God, I mean, you know, there's like 20 years in there, right? So lots of stuff. But mainly I had, you know, I was married, I had a kid. And, you know, I had a solo record, which was, you know.
Didn't know any of this.
I have it.
You have it. You haven't told me about it. This is how a partnership works. He hides shit until it gets dragged out online live like a fucking horrible wife. Fucker.
So when
I feel underrated.
when you quit playing drums, like it was immediate, like, yeah, okay.
I didn't really ever quit playing drums. I just quit playing drums in the Doughboys. You know, I went to school at Berkeley after that. Like I went to India for a couple of years, and then I came back and I went to music school for a couple of years, and you know, tried to be like a serious drummer. You know, like I learned a bunch of
Boston or Berkeley and San Francisco.
Berkeley and Boston. Yeah, not Berkeley with a Y, Berkeley with 2 E's. Yeah, exactly. So I did the whole learn jazz thing, or you know, try to learn jazz thing. And
yeah, I got a scholarship to there. My stepdad told me I couldn't go. Piece of shit, motherfucker.
Sheesh.
Well, I got a full ride.
Dang.
You know, it's a hard school to get into, especially for a full ride. All right, so let's skip forward to the Slip-Ons. I am fucking in, man. Jeez. Record time.
Oh, look at that.
Seriously good shit. Everybody who's listening right now, all two of you. People do listen afterwards, by the way. Literally, it's a fucking phenomenal thing. So you play guitar and sing in this band, right?
Yeah.
Give me a rundown on your rig. What do you play through?
I use an orange tiny terror, dual terror, with a 212 Baltic birch 16 ply cab.
Woo-hoo.
And I use different guitars for the different tunings of the various songs, and I don't really use any pedal boards, just like a noise suppressor tuner. And I do have a clean boost that I pretty much never use. I got that
so
because
you rely on cabinet gain, like you just there's my gain.
Yeah, and I'm also I'm just this, I'm just the second guitar player. Shock does all the fancy guitar parts and stuff, and I'm just I just I'm actually learning. I started learning like this during that record you're holding, that like the cleaning my tone up is way better for stacking than you first play guitar, you're like, I just want to you want to crank the gain and just destroy everything. But whoa, hang on, my computer's doing something weird here.
Porn's coming up.
No, it's
we're hacking you to get your porn history because we want to know what's up.
No, you know what it is? It's that thing like that Adobe does when you have like pirated software. It tries to force you to stop using it. So every now and then it pops up and says,
by the way, my buddy of ours got nailed recently on SolidWorks. And it turns out when you email a file from a pirated thing, that's how they can track you. Oh. Just so you know, because Eric got hit for $57,000 for 5.5 years of pirated SolidWorks.
Ouch.
I'm not going to say his last name. It's not Jimenez. So don't email files from pirated shit because there's a tracker on all those IPs.
Wow. Duly noted.
Uh-huh. Okay, we don't know what you're talking about, Sean. So, okay, what's your favorite guitar?
My favorite guitar, like that I own, or that in life?
Favorite guitar you play in life and that you like to go play it on the road, play it in the studio? Like,
well, I'm like a big Hamer guy, so I'm all about Hamer standards and Hamer specials. I have 2 Hamer specials, one P90 special and one checkerboard special, which is basically just the same guitar only with a little veneer and humbuckers. And then there's the Hamer standard, which is basically the Hamer version of the Explorer. Right. I mean, you probably, if you're a guitar player, you probably know a bunch of that. Well, Explorer history, really though. There's a whole deep dive there.
Well, that's what's really interesting is asking these questions. I try to ask all our guests, like, kind of like where you at gear wise. Because like I'm a Telly Randall guy. Like Telly Randall, one distortion pedal, maybe a wah, and that's about it. I don't like giant pedal boards, and I'm friends with Johnny Avila from Oingo Boingo, and he and I have had like a good laugh at a bunch of guitar players with the pedal board of death.
Oh yeah,
it's like nobody can hear what you're doing. Nobody fucking. I know you've got 7 pedals working, but then when you click one off, nobody even knows.
That's kind of a modern guitar thing, though, right? Like, I mean, the way I play guitar and the way we play guitar in our band is very old school, right? Like, if you listen to bands like Fontaine's DC or something, like the whole. I mean, honestly, the whole guitar is almost a different instrument, right? I mean, it's. Although, to be fair, like that new record, I don't know if you've heard that new Fontaine's record, but
I have not.
If you have not, and you listen to it and you're like, this doesn't do much for me, I recommend that you then listen to it on vinyl, because it's one of those things where it really it miraculously like transformed. I mean, I'm a fan of vinyl records in general, but I've never heard such a radical difference between listening to a sound recording like on Spotify or whatever, and then listening to it on vinyl. I heard stuff I had never heard before. It's crazy. Like I was anyways, it's cool. So yeah, pedal boards is very much a thing now, and I think the way we play is very much the way we used to, which is, I mean, like Gizz can vouch for that. It used to be everybody had an SG with a 50-watt Marshall head and a 412, and both guitar players were kind of the same, and you just played the same part, right? That was the 80s guitar sound.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
Well, you had that, or that your second guitar player was playing those counter melodies. I call them
Jackson and
things,
Carvel.
But the thing that I think that has changed in music is that where the two guitar players would play off of each other, like Jonathan and Kastner, and also like Brogan and Sergi from Sam I Am. The way that you played guitar, both guitars were prominent but had the sound. Now you have a rhythm guitar player and the other guy is
completely different setups.
Yeah, and all those pedals are just sound effects pretty much of what the guitar can do. And I think,
but there's a lot of that is actually
Tom
trying
Morello
to
kind of added that.
Well, Tom Morello, he's actually a really great guitar player. However, he relies so heavily on effects that it becomes difficult for me to want to listen to him. Like, okay, great, dude. Congratulations. My first real setup was a Fender Stage Lead 2 and a 1986 Strat with no distortion pedal, turned up the gain, and worked the fucking volume pedal or the volume knob on the guitar with my pinky. Like, I couldn't afford it. And so that's the whole DIY part of punk is like, I couldn't afford a bunch of effects. And so I learned how to make what I needed to have happen without those effects. And so when I see somebody with an effects board that's 20 pedals deep, I'm like, A, I can barely remember the song. B, what the fuck? How many pedals? Like, do you have is there,
there's more. The other thing is like in the type of bands that we were in, right? Like, you were getting your microphone kicked in your teeth and cables unplugged and shit was flying all over. You couldn't show up and have a pedal board like that. You're just asking for trouble, right? Like you would, there's a reason why Stefan's guitar doesn't have it's just pretty much like an output and a pickup, right? I don't even think he has knobs on his custom model, does he?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think it has. It definitely doesn't have a toggle switch. It doesn't have knobs, and there's a reason for that. It's because in the old days that shit all broke or got fucked up in the middle of the set, right? So we would be like taping the strap locks on, and like you'd gaffer tape the toggle switch if you had one, and I mean, you only ever used the rhythm pickup anyway, right? The bridge pickup, like nobody ever used the neck pickup. So
off.
That's why juniors were so popular with punk rock guys, right? Because you didn't need the neck pickup.
Right. So that's an interesting question for drummers, both of you guys, as punk rock drummers. You guys have so many moving parts to what you do. Even a Violent Femmes drummer who just doesn't sit down, I only had a 3-piece. Like it's still a lot of gear to have in a place where some dickhead's going to jump on stage and knock it down. How do you guys do it? Like, how do you do that?
Again, for me, every band is different.
Well, nobody wanted to touch you.
So it's like, if it's a hardcore skate punk band, usually less gear. When it's rock bands that I'm playing with, I tend to use more cymbals and stands and, more toms just because it's, you can actually
China.
3 of them. 3
7 Chinas
and
999.
But I remember watching like old videos of you guys when you were in the band and you had that fucking China and it was just like, oh fuck yeah.
And I had a splash and I had like a tambourine on the hi-hat.
Yeah.
I had a lot more gear than most drummers that in the genre, and that was just because I was I don't know why I liked it,
but you used it, if you have all that equipment and you're using it, then I
did use it, but I'm pretty sure it annoyed the F out of some of my bandmates at the time. They were probably like, dude, God, do we really need a fucking China cymbal in this song? Right? They weren't, but
actually, as somebody who's written music for bands and like kind of been like the guy who brought it all together, I don't think I would ever criticize somebody like hitting a China or a splash and like, fucking hate you for that, bro. Like, I don't think I would ever said that. I'd be like, dude, this is still a craft. It's still an art. Like, I don't think it annoyed people as much as you think it did. Is all I'm saying.
Well, here's the secret teaching for if any of the two people that are listening are actually drummers. The secret teaching for me with China cymbals is that like they don't sound like China cymbals when you record most of the time. They don't sound the same. Like, so if you have a really dark, annoying sounding China cymbal, it doesn't sound the same when you record it most of the time. So what I do a lot is I just use the China for a really big crash in the song, and I'll hit it at the same time as another crash. So I'll crash with both hands, one on the China and one on a big, medium crash or whatever, and it just makes a really explosive crash. Doesn't sound like a China at all, So I mean, that's kind of how I use it most of the time.
Here's a dumb question. What the fuck do they call it in China?
Questions coming from
No, you eat your balls right now. Your ball. Sorry, one ball. What? Why do they call it in China?
I mean, they came from China. They were the kind of cymbals that were Wu-Tang, right? Like,
if you hit it with a mallet, it kind of sounds like a gong.
That's Japanese.
Well, whatever.
So it's racist.
Yeah, whatever.
There might be a better word for these kind of cymbals, but I'm not really sure what it is. For a while, Zildjian called them the Pang cymbal for a while.
All right.
Called I don't know.
So
maybe we do need a new word, but my favorite.
What's your favorite China?
I mean, I only own one right now. It's a hand hammered Sabian medium, I think. It's got a really big roll in the lip.
Jokes.
Gizz gets it. Paul's like, yeah, this is fuel for days for you, buddy.
I have a Zildjian A custom 18-inch, and I have the Zildjian Oriental 18.
Not PC.
And then the other one is my secret weapon that is not a Zildjian, so I never really tell people what it is.
I made it for
I
him.
do use it on recordings only. I never use it live just because, I have a little deal with Zildjian. So, I use Zildjian. But in the studio, I have a secret weapon.
It's made of foreskins.
And I use it, and it sounds fucking phenomenal. And
oh, really?
It does.
If you do say so yourself?
It sounds amazing on recordings. So that's why I use it. For some reason, the 18-inch Zildjians that I use don't have that power behind them, unless I'm using them as with hitting the snare and the China at the same time. That my secret weapon, I don't have to hit it with a snare. I can just hit it and it does its job.
You don't hit your cymbal with snare? What?
China's I hit with my snare. I hit them both at the same time.
Okay. I get it. Yeah. Simultaneous.
Here's a question for you. Have you guys ever seen Ronnie Vannucci play with the Killers?
Yeah.
Because he takes like 18 and 20-inch ride cymbals, crash cymbals, and puts them together for hi-hats. He has the biggest effing hi-hats anybody. Like, I mean, obviously he's played millions of kinds of hi-hats, but I mean, it's pretty cool.
It's a fucking pizza, dude.
I had the chance of working for the Killers years ago when they were here. They did like a 4-night thing at the Vogue, and I was a stagehand, so I was there for the rehearsals, and they really won me over. One, I got to watch Ronnie Vannucci really close and was like super impressed. Guy's a great drummer, and also they were a super hardworking band. I mean, you can say what you want about them, but they were. They put in the miles and they put in the hours,
I got to say with the Killers, and that's an interesting thing you bring up because Gizz and I talk about what is and what isn't punk rock and whatnot. Airborne Toxic Event is a band that I would throw in the fucking mix all day long. And the Killers, I actually got to hear their demos from their first album, and the demos were fucking sick, dude. I mean, they were amazing. Whoever got to engineer and produce that album flowered them up to pun this one really badly, because Brendan Flowers, the singer, was like, I wasn't supposed to be the singer. I was a placeholder looking for a singer. And he has an amazing voice. Like, he really translates incredibly well on their music, and even better without the hyper production. And so when they're just a 4 or 5 piece band, those guys fucking rip. Like they're amazing. And that's probably what you got to see.
Well, yeah. And I was, like I said, I was mostly watching Ronnie, and I was just like blown away by the guy. He was a great drummer. Just to answer Ray there, the question about the V drums. Yeah, Ray, I think they're super cool, especially now they have like velocity sensitivity, and you can play it soft or loud. And like in the early days, the sample was just the sample and you couldn't get any dynamics on it, but now they're super amazing. I could never afford them, right? So, but if I could, I would have them for sure. They're super cool. Every time I played them, I've been like, this is the shit for sure.
Yeah. And that comes up with guitar stuff as well. Like, do you want to put a Paul Reed Smith in a case and ship it to Europe? Do you want to put a $2,000 guitar in a case, ship it to Europe, or do you want to get a fucking telly, like a Squire telly, and go, well, if it makes it, it does. If it makes it, who gives a shit? Or like there is a touring question behind that. And like you did 2 tours with Doughboys, right?
Three. Plus, we did a bunch of regional stuff, trips back and forth to Detroit, trips to East Coast, Halifax, all that.
It's only one bridge.
What, to Detroit?
Yeah.
Well, we took the tunnel all the time.
Yeah.
As you can see in the video of the new song, there's a little animation of us driving through the tunnel in this little sedan.
Is it heavyweight or heavy lifting? What was with slip-ons? Is it heavyweight or heavy lifting? I can't.
Heavy machinery. Heavy machinery.
Yeah. Dude. I like literally before we went on, I sent that song to about 40 people.
Cool.
Like, you gotta fucking hear this. Like that was the one I said. I'm like, if Husker Du and fucking Paul Westerberg had a baby.
And also, what was it? Apart?
Yeah. Apart's a really old one though.
Today we're both like just jumping off the walls.
Dude, again, I've been so busy. I've been like and normally I get a lot of time to like kind of dig into what our guests are doing, where they've been, and like nobody can actually get everything all the time, no matter what. And so when it comes up, I'm like, oh wait, who are we doing what with, and why are we doing something with something? And usually I'll get like 3 or 4 days of it. And I didn't have that chance this time around. I was like, and I'm like, okay, fine, let me just plug that. Tap, tap, tap. Boom. Like, fuck. Why didn't you tell me sooner? It's his fault. My worst wife in the whole history of the world. Like, it literally was like,
that's the coolest thing about music, though, right? And that's the coolest thing about music now. Like, there's so much of it. Like, everywhere you turn, there's amazing music happening. And it's just, we're super lucky right now. I mean, we've always been lucky, but especially now, it's crazy.
Well, now you just talking about stuff, we can go back and listen to it because you can find everything on YouTube,
Like, I mean, I was driving in the car with a buddy of Shocks recently, Shocks, the guitar player in Slip-Ons, and they were arguing Metallica versus Megadeth, and I was just laughing. I was just laughing at them. So when we got in the car, I was like going to try to put on that Metallica cover of Budgie, the covered Bread Fan, but I couldn't find it because I don't think it was on Spotify. So I was like, I'm just going to put on straight up Budgie. So I went straight to like 1973 version of Bread Fan, and the dude that was arguing for Megadeth had never heard it, and he was just like, what is this? This is the best thing I've ever heard. And he just raved about it. And it's like, I can literally just have a whim and go, here you go, Budgie, 1973. Like we couldn't really do that when I was a teenager. We had to like right away to flip side records. And, I mean, you couldn't, I mean, we're so lucky now, man.
You're like 41 or 42, right?
I wish, man. No way.
Yeah. Just say yeah.
Sure. Yeah. 41, 42. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
With me and him, like what we love to do
him
together. Him and I, whatever the fuck. But
my husband and I
we'll be hanging out here in the shop, and he'll be on YouTube and he'll put something on, and I'll something inevitably that I've never heard. I'm all, dude, that reminds me of this, and then he hasn't heard of that. And then we go back and forth, and it's like one for one that we go on YouTube and we're listening to stuff, and it's
actually, it'd be a really fun show is to get like a bunch of remote guests and in-house guests, and just be like, we're gonna go fucking 8 hours of YouTube fucking black hole. How much fun would that be, dude? Like, he didn't have ever heard of the Knife Song by Milk.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So Milk, an amazing band from Texas. And I mean, like, it would be so much fun to hear all of the music that all of the people that we know actually have in the back of their head, going, "Oh yeah, I remember those guys." Like,
and the obscure stuff,
the really obscure shit. Exactly. Like, what the fuck? Who did what the fuck? And like, just to listen to all the musicians that have been in other bands, like, literally, the '60s don't happen without Jeff Beck or Ginger Baker. Period. The '70s don't happen without these musicians. The '80s don't happen without these musicians. And like, so look back at the bands they were in. This is part of what we do. Is like, I want to hear about your history, your bands, where you've been, and where you've come from, because at some point somebody's going to look back and go, "Well, how did all that fucking happen?" And I'm like, well, and this is a question I'm going to put to you, and this is going to be a difficult one. Doughboys, Big Drill Car. Literally, I think they both had the same baby at the same time. And you can tell me I'm wrong if you'd like to, because
I think they're cousins, man. I mean, Big Drill Car has the California thing, and we were very much East Coast Canada, Nils influenced. Even I think for sure they're definitely in the same family. But if you listen to the guitars, there's a big difference for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, and the main difference is because, well, not the main. There's obviously Mark, the way he played, but I mean, he played a Strat, right, or like a Strat type guitar a lot of the time.
I don't know what Mark played, and I want to interview him. So
you should. He'd be an interesting guest.
Well, you know what? Help us out with that one, because I want to talk to him so hard about his setup, because that was the punchiest guitar I've ever heard, and the slip-ons. I'm like, that's there it is. That's why I asked. I'm like, what was the gear you were playing?
Well, that's like that. So Heavy Machinery, that song that you brought up. So my parts, I use both hammers on that. There's basically the P90 is the main part, and then I use the humbucker special for the fat in the choruses. And Shocker, I think, is using he's basically using Les Paul standard, and I think the clean overdubs are his Flying V.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he pretty much just uses a 50-watt Marshall, but he might have used some of the stuff in the studio. Did he use it? No, he didn't really. It's pretty straight up stuff. So I'm orange, he's Marshall, and it's just all pretty straight up.
That's super interesting.
But I mean, the other thing is, like, it was mixed by Dave Ogilvy, right? So I mean, he knows how to make rock records with guitars sound good, right? The guy just gets this certain style of music, and he knows how to make it sound good. So I mean, you know, sure, there's, you know, we tracked it to analog tape with the clasp to Pro Tools and all that, you know, plays into the sound. But I mean, you got to give a lot of credit to Dave for his mix ability, right? Because, you know, I don't think that record would sound like it does without him.
Yeah.
So Joey Ramici said, why don't you let your guest talk a little bit?
That's you,
Joey.
You're the one that's taking off.
So it's on you, buddy. Joey Ramici wants to hear you talk.
I know Joey Ramici from Jughead Rhythm.
Oh, Joe. Is Joe's picture? Is he wearing a Devo hat in that picture?
Yeah.
That's super cool.
He actually sewed that on his head. It's permanent.
That's crazy.
So you're the host now. We're just
okay. Here, there's a question here. Brock, did Doughboys ever do shows with Voivod? I noticed that Away helped with the samples on Happy Accidents album. I know you're not on it, but did you all play shows prior? The mid-late 80s had such diverse bills, especially here in LA. Was it the same in Canada? I don't think I ever played a show with Away with Voivod at the time, but Away did play, and this will make you laugh. Away did play an acoustic show with us one time, and he played accordion. So Away played accordion with the Doughboys one time at this. It was sort of like a, you know, I think I used blast sticks, and they played acoustic stuff. So yeah, I mean, they were certainly peers of ours, and we were always huge fans of Voivod and Away and stuff. So I think they probably did play with Voivod after I left the band, but I don't think we ever played with Voivod when I was in the band, other than that one time where I played the accordion.
You guys shared rehearsal studio, or was that after you?
Oh God, well, there was a number of rehearsal studios, so possibly. I don't have a clear memory of sharing a space with Voivod, but there was a few, so that's certainly possible. Yeah.
I think it may have been Kastner who said that that they shared a studio with.
That might have been
Voivod,
that bank. There was that. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. There's a whole another story. That might have been that bank. There was this rehearsal we had that was kind of like the vault room of a bank, like underneath the basement of a bank. That might have been that space, or it might have been after I'd left the band. You'd have to ask John about that for sure. He would know. You should have Jonathan on this show as well, by the way. Have you heard the Low Sixes? Have you heard his new band?
Not yet. Not yet.
Dude, I'm
supposed to meet up with him next week.
Well, he's got two things, right? He's got the USA Out of Vietnam project, which is kind of like Godspeed meets, I don't know, it's a heavier version of Godspeed. And then the Low Sixes is like his pop band, and it's with Jace from the Besnard Lakes. And yeah, he'd be a great guest too. I know they have a new record, so he'd be glad to come on and talk about it.
I'm gonna have to get him back.
Bamici?
Yeah, no, Kastner.
Oh, well, I want you to.
No, I was talking about Jonathan, the other John, not John K. Jonathan Cummins.
Oh, okay.
His new record, yeah.
Bionic was like, when he started Bionic, it was such a departure from Doughboys. Like, I got to get away from that. You know,
Bionic was a punishing band. I mean, I don't know if you ever saw it live. Did you ever see Bionic live?
No.
That Deliverance record is like, oof. And for a while, Ian Blurton was in that band. I don't know if you know. Are you familiar with Ian Blurton? He's like a Canadian. Basically, he should be as well known as like Gordon Lightfoot or Neil Young, but he isn't. He's a peer of ours. He used to play in Change of Heart.
Oh, okay.
So he's doing anyway. Ian Blurton was in Bionic for a while, and he's a left-handed, basically, if you can imagine Leslie West with a Les Paul Jr. SG or something.
Oh, man.
That's kind of what he was at the time, you know, trucker hat, and those two in Bionic was just like an assault, dude. Like he would have like Ian's rig was like a Marshall into a green with a garnet all chained together, and as he fired them up in order, your head would just like, it's just like, right? Yeah, it's like as far if you're into guitar tone, Ian's tone at that time was like something to behold. His latest thing is called Future Now, Ian Blurton's Future Now, and he has a new record coming out.
Future Now.
It basically sounds like Uriah Heep if they recorded it now. It's like Uriah Heep, Magician's Birthday, made in 2024, but possibly heavier. You can tell I like it. It's really cool.
It's written down in the finest of Sharpies that you can find.
Yeah, Ian Blurton's Future Now. There's a couple of records, and they're both fairly recent, and they're both epic. Not punk rock at all, but you know.
Well, punk rock is subjective, and that's one of the questions. Like, that's one of the things that we talk about. Like if you're like, is that punk rock, or is it punk rock just to be fucking rock and roll and just go suck it, assholes? Like fucking, I mean, like where do we draw that line? Where is it? How is that a real thing?
I think everyone draws it for themselves, right? I mean, I'm not gonna. You know, there was that big time in the 80s when, you know, Bad Brains was, you know, their Eye Against Eye record and then DRI, and there was the whole, you know, crossover thing, right? And that was a big thing. Metalheads and punkers were suddenly on the same team, right? I mean, we realized that we were always kind of on the same team, whereas in the beginning we were not on the same team, you know.
Well, to me, like the whole crossover thing started when, you know, you've been in a band for almost 10 years and you learned how to play.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
all
Right.
of a sudden, hey, I can
Like-
do a solo on this song because I can
Like
solo.
is Corrosion of Conformity
Corrosion.
a punk band or not? I mean,
Well, so,
I don't
yeah,
think it
that's-
really matters, man. I just let people debate it. I just, do you like the music or not? Right.
Exactly. Does it
That
does
is
it
the
touch
most Canadian thing you said yet. Is like, hey, I'm gonna throw a bunch of fucking pucks out on the ice, and I'm gonna see who hits one in the goal. That's really what it is. Like, is DRI punk? Well, they were. Are they not now? We don't know. Who holds the fucking gate to that? Who's got the key to the answer to all these things? Like, fucking. I mean, was Iggy and the Stooges punk? Were all the garage bands in the late '60s punk?
Well, here's the interesting thing about some of those bands, right? Like if you think about the Stooges, for example, since you brought up Iggy and the Stooges, like they were listening to like Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, but and then there was a whole era of punk bands that were kind of like listening to the Descendants or like as people, it evolves. The things that people are influenced by evolves, right? So like obviously the Stooges don't sound like Blink 182. Like it's just
Wait, they don't?
Sure.
and I mean, are we going to argue that one is punk and one isn't? I don't know. Like, I'll leave that for the
We can throw this out. Twist and Shout by the fucking Beatles fucking caused a ruckus, a riot, and a big fucking problem, and it sounded like anarchy at the time, right? So maybe that was the beginning of punk rock. Like,
maybe,
no, you went
maybe.
against all of the fucking things. We don't know.
Elvis, Link Ray. I mean, I don't know.
Okay, Link Ray is punk as fuck. I fucking love Link Ray. That documentary is amazing. But yeah, it's such an interesting question. So we were on Almost Famous Magazine podcast with Scott. Scott, I hope you're doing well.
He is.
He's had a surgery on Monday, and that kind of came up a little bit. And it's a really wonderful conversation to say, like, is punk rock kind of the resurgence of punk rock with the Punk Rock Museum? Suck it, guys. And where punk rock is right now is kind of at its own pinnacle. Like, is this kind of the new pinnacle of what rock and roll looks like? I would posit, yes, it is. How do you feel about that? Like where this has all led to at this point?
I don't really care, man. I'm just happy that kids are listening to records and coming to shows. Like, in Vancouver, there's this venue that we play fairly often, and a lot of the shows there are all ages. And for me to get up and play a show with slip-ons and have like kids like under the drinking age with like marks on their hands because they can't buy liquor coming into the show and like being into the music and like buying vinyl records and stuff, like that's what it's all about, right? Like, I don't know what to call it. I don't think it matters. I don't, I'm sure they would describe it to their friends differently than I would, but I mean, music is like, has this ability to touch us at an emotional level, and it just crosses boundaries, and it's got this amazing power. So I don't know. It's hard to talk about, but it's great to hear. That's kind of where I'm at. I don't really care.
One of the most powerful things I've heard on our show yet. I think that we're gonna capture that as a short. Like, that is one of the most beautiful things ever. Is like, no, it doesn't fucking matter. It's just a fucking art form, right?
I mean, that's how I look at it, right? Like,
I was listening to an interview that you did recently, and the host asked you, about the slip-ons and where a lot of the songs came from, and you said that like there's some songs that when you wrote them and you recorded them, it was like, okay, it was kind of therapeutic, but years and years later, once you've already gone through the emotions of what that song was written about, that now it was more than okay to release that song. And now that you're kind of over that step, I tend to believe, like with a lot of the songs that I've currently written, that I have to release them. They have to go out into the world so that, anybody can hear them and take whatever they need to take from them. But like for me, heartbreak songs are all I can write lately. And, sometimes as difficult as it is, to release it, it has to be released. How did you come about, like, certain songs that you've written where you're just like, I don't know. And then several years later, you're like, okay, now it's time.
Well, sometimes you start writing a song and you kind of get stuck, or it just doesn't get finished, or whatever happens. I think sometimes you have to live through a certain experience to really finish the song. Like, at least for me, like sometimes you can just write a song in a short period of time, but sometimes, it takes a while. And like, it's funny you talk about heartbreak songs. I mean, I read a lot of heartbreak songs too. I call them just like butthurt songs, because I'm just basically butthurt about something, and I'm singing about it to try to get over feeling butthurt. Not to disrespect it, because like it's powerful and important to me at the time, right? But like, it's also rough. Like it's cathartic. And like, I would say Greystone, our new single that just came out today, or last night, I guess, it's probably the first song I've written in, the last half dozen that actually isn't a butthurt song. It's like literally about something that happened and a place.
About a club in Detroit, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about a place we used to play in Detroit. And it's like, there's a story, and I asked some of the other guys for their memories of that place to get some ideas to flesh it out. And it was like, after I finished that, I was like, oh, well, this isn't a butthurt song. It's not a heartbreak song. And I was just kind of like, oh, that's kind of cool. So maybe I'm past that stage of that particular heartbreak for a while. But I mean, I don't know. I agree with you. You have to, I mean, we're artists. We can only, sing and write about what we're going through. And I mean, music is very much an emotional language. So like, if you're feeling strongly about something, then that's probably going to drive your work for a while, right? Like, and if you don't feel strongly, then you're probably not going to make any good art. I mean, I suppose people can, there's ways of making art that's intellectual, or maybe AI, or, some other way to get there, but
nope.
I don't know how to do that. The only way I know how to write is from the feelings that I have. So
Sticks and strings.
Yeah.
So I got two things. A new fucking segment on our show. I should say, do you have an acoustic next to you? We want to play that for us. You don't have to.
I will if you want.
Really?
I mean, it's my open A guitar, so there's not much I can do in it, but sure. Yeah.
Would you sit and play that song for us right now?
Which song?
The one you were just talking about.
Greystone?
Oh, that's another tuning altogether, man.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, no, that's in the crafty tuning. That one's like
I know what you're saying right now.
But I could play Don't Say Goodbye on that one, I think. Yeah, I don't know.
I gotta ask, you're a Goo Goo Dolls fan, huh?
No, he's not.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, I don't know those guys very well. We hung out with them briefly, driving around with their manager in this crazy convertible, or their manager at the time, I guess. And I would say, yeah, I think they have some solid songs. I don't know their whole catalog or whatever, but yeah, I mean, we had a couple of shows with them. They did not sound like they ended up sounding when we played with them. I'll tell you that much. They were like a lot more raw, messy, loud.
Because I've seen interviews with Resnick, and every song it has a certain guitar because of its tuning. Every song.
I actually really love that he's such a Goo Goo Dolls fan, because they were really good at one point. All right, so I have declared today Bill Stevenson Day.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why. I woke up this morning, I was like, I just want to fucking listen to Descendants. Favorite pre-Milo song, you go, and then favorite post-Milo song, go.
Pre-Milo?
Yeah.
I don't know,
it's
man.
hard.
Is there Descendants without Milo?
Yeah.
Yeah, the first 7-inch.
The entire fucking Enjoy album was pre-Milo.
Wait, no, Milo's on Enjoy.
Milo sung on Enjoy after the fact, but Milo was not Enjoy. Cheer was Bill Stevenson singing.
Well, so it's going to be tough for me to answer that, but I think as far as the post, like, so the with Milo stuff, like the recent stuff, I would probably say my most favorite recent Descendants song is Spineless and Scarlet Red. Is that what it is? I think Carl wrote that song. Is it it Spineless and Scarlet Red?
I thought it was Scarlet and Spineless. Yeah, no, you're probably right.
You know the song I'm talking. It's on Hyperspasium, I think.
Yeah.
Spineless and Scarlet Red. And I remember being at Punk Rock Bowling a few years ago. It was more than a couple. And I was in my hotel room hearing them sound check that. And I was like, oh, this is like the best song ever. For sure.
Dude.
Spineless and Scarlet. I think it's got to be Spineless and Scarlet Red, isn't it, Gizz?
I think you're right.
And then early ones. I mean, I really love Good Things. I don't know. Again,
Good Things is Milo.
Yeah, I don't know if I know any of the early stuff. I didn't think I really knew that Milo, there was any pre-Milo Descendants, honestly. So
you haven't watched Buck and Filmage?
Yeah, I've watched all the Filmage a number of times.
Yeah, no, the first 10-inch and the first 12-inch was pre-Milo. And there was a singer in between Bill and Milo.
Well, when I met them, Milo was very much in the band, right? And it was Carl and Stefan. So for me, Carl and Stefan will always be. I mean, I know they came much later. They were in Massacre Guys, and there's a whole history of that. But when I met the Descendants, and when I first got into them, it was the Blue record, the All record, and so the other stuff I kind of discovered after the fact, because that's what they were playing when I met them and when we played with them. So that era of Descendants is more familiar to me than the earlier stuff. I've had to kind of piece it together after the fact.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot either.
No, it's totally fine, man. There was a really early song I was trying to remember the title of yesterday. I was at the Gale and I was trying to think of the name of the song, and I still can't think of it. And the guy, he brought out and he put on Milo Goes to College, and I'm like, no, it's not on this one. So I don't know. I can't think of the one that would be the answer to the other half of your question. I can't.
Man, it's just funny. It's just like, and it's a question I asked myself. I'm like, what's pre? What's post? Da-da-da. And I'm just having my own day going on. I'm hyper stressed.
Well, it is Bill Stevenson Day. I guess, right? So.
Yeah, it's Bill Stevenson Day. October 14th is now.
What were you going to say, Gizz? What were you going to say to
All
that?
right. My question.
No. What's your answer to the question?
What?
He doesn't know either.
Descendants? Again, like, I love Descendants. I love listening to them. It's not a band that I go, today's Descendants Day, I got to put this on. They're not one of those bands. If they come on, I'll go through my catalog and listen. But to me, and then my question is are you more of a Descendants fan or an All fan?
Ooh.
Because I would much rather listen to All.
I'm probably more on the Descendants side, although I really do appreciate All, and I obviously we toured with All and the Smalley Dave era, so I do have a real appreciation for that too. And I also think Scott's a fabulous singer. So
yeah.
And Chad was just in Vancouver literally last week, and I missed him. I feel really kind of bummed about it. So Chad, next time, like, don't post that you're in Vancouver as you're leaving. He's like made a photo of like he was in Whistler, I think, or maybe Gibson's, and he posted that Canada's beautiful. I'm like, dude, where are you?
I miss Whistler. So one of the reasons that the whole Vancouver shit, the Descendants thing came up is like because I see so much Doughboys and Slip-Ons and Big Drill Car. There's so much of that really came out of the Descendants. Is that true or is that not true?
Well, I mean, our second record was pretty influenced by Descendants, just because we were touring with them so much, and Bill, we like basically we were on tour and we we had the opportunity to record with them, so, and I mean, but when I first was touring, playing drums, I was like, the endurance was killing me, man. I used to use the butt end of my sticks, and my hands were just opening up with blisters all the time, crazy glue and tape and whatever you can do to get through it. And then when I met Bill, I saw that he was using, at that time, he was using the Regal 3S marching sticks, right? And he used to wrap them. And I was like, that's really interesting. So I tried those for a bit, and I was like, well, those are really fucking big. But once you kind of get the sort of let the stick do its own work, you can really kind of get the fast, and then you can get the surf beat. You can get that. All that to say, Bill had a really big impact on how I played drums, from an endurance point of view, right? Like, it's basically helps you to get through a 40-50 minute set or whatever, playing the fast stuff by having that technique. And I kind of learned that from watching Bill and using the sticks he was using and stuff. So I think in that way it influenced how I played drums on the Doughboys records for sure. Although, I was using a double pedal. Bill never used a double pedal. So yeah, they definitely
never used them. Okay, I have another question for you, and this one just came to mind. When we did our interview with Kastner, he mentioned that Home Again, actually, that there was a first mix of that record.
Yeah.
Do you have it?
No, I wish I did. It's a weird story because, like, without getting into too many details, like, none of us knew that he had flown back to LA to remix the record. That the label didn't like it. I guess the way I heard it is that the label wanted to spend more money to polish it up because they didn't. I mean, like, the first mix was very much like the Blue record, like the Blue Descendants record. It was super dry, compressed, really punchy, and really kind of like, the way that Blue Descendants record sounded in terms of production value. That's how I remember the mixes. And if you listen to the mixes of Home Again that were released, it's a lot more shiny, is more gated reverb on it and whatnot, and it's polished a bit. And I never knew that was going to happen, and I wish I had the original mixes. I'm not sure anybody does, honestly.
No, he can't find them. He doesn't know who would have them.
I bet you if we rob him, he knows.
I mean, we recorded that at Third Wave, I think, in Torrance. I mean, if anybody would know, you would have to talk to maybe Richard Andrews or Bill maybe might know. But I think the masters I don't know. I wish I had that mix.
Because now he regrets the final mix that he did.
Yeah, I mean, he was under pressure. The label wanted, I mean, it was ridiculous, but they wanted to spend more money to make it sound more, it's like they should have had that little placebo knob for the producer guy, the A&R guy, to like turn and think it's making something different happen, right? Like, I don't know. They maybe like a super dry, punchy record wasn't their idea of what it should sound like. So
I kind of feel like if the presence knob was a little bigger. You know what I mean? Like,
John was probably just trying to just make sure that the record came out and the label didn't balk on it and whatever. I don't know. I never asked him about that, but I'm sure he was just trying to make it happen.
That brings up a really weird, interesting question that just like pops into my head right now. What if any of the bands that we know, any of the bands that we love, all of the things that we like, everybody that we know, that just went to a fucking studio, adjusted levels, and just like racked out a song just live, and just went, fuck you, here's the song. Like, what would that sound like?
You?
No, I sound way better. Sound better than you do. But you know what I mean?
It's pretty much what we try to do now, right? I mean, obviously we're not like super ridiculous, and we don't like refuse to use digital technology or whatever, but I mean, we still use analog tape. We still, pretty much play everything. We, it's no, like, that's pretty much how we make records. At least
I think
speaking for
that's
my
why I
band,
like
anyway, we
Sip
still try to do it that way.
I
You
think
know?
that's why I like Sip On so much. Is it sounds so much like you guys went to a room and you fucking just played a fucking song, and it just sounds like the song you played, and it wasn't manipulated so bad that like. And again, like the Killers, oh my god, they're amazing until you hear their overproduced fucking super engineered bullshit. Goo Goo Dolls, over engineered, super produced bullshit. Airborne Toxic Event, over engineered, super fucking produced bullshit. Like just as an actual band playing an actual song. I mean, I've seen Airborne Toxic Event like 18 times. And when they're on stage, oh my God, those guys rip. I'm not going to buy the album. You know,
that's,
like
that's fair, right? I mean, it kind of boils down to who's paying for the record too, right? Like,
right?
I mean, in John's defense, to go back to that mix story, like, you know, what are you going to do if the label, you deliver the master to the label and they're like, I don't know, man. I mean,
Remix.
if they start to balk and they're like, well, hey, can you go remix this and maybe blah, 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 you know, you're going to do it, right? Because you want your record to come out, right? Like, I mean, the shitty thing about that record is that we did own the master. Like we made that record before we signed the deal with the label. So it's kind of an unfortunate fact and the timeline of it. And I won't get into the details of it, but it didn't have to be that way, but that's kind of how it turned out. And you can't really blame John either, right? I mean, you know, he was just trying to make it happen.
Yeah.
But I can blame Gizz.
Because I wasn't there.
So we're at an hour and 20. We're getting to the end of the thing here. I want to do a couple of things. Is Brock, I want your plugs. What are you at? Where are you doing it? How do you get your shit? How do we fucking plug your merch so I can make all of my friends at fucking risk of physical harm buy your shit?
Well, that new record's, you know, well, first of all, the new single's out today. It's called Greystone, and it's just a digital single, so you can just find it out there. The video's out there. Just Google for it. You'll find it. That record that Gizz just showed is from last year. That's our current, you know, the most recent release. It's and you can just get it on our Bandcamp, slipons.bandcamp.com. It's also on all the other platforms.
Right,
and,
Slip-Ons.
yeah.
Right.
And I'll pack it up for you myself and send it to you. You know,
Fucking, I'm doing it.
That's how it works.
Any upcoming shows?
Yeah, we're playing a release thing at Green Auto in Vancouver on the 15th. And that's going to be with Modern Terror. I'm not sure if you know Brent Hopkins' band. Yeah, really Limo used to work for No Effects, so you might know him from that. So his band, they're going to come down from Gibson's and play with us. We're also playing, I don't know, do you know Dead Bars from Seattle?
Yep.
Yeah, so we're playing with them in February, and that's pretty much it for gigs on the
Vancouver?
calendar. Yeah. Yeah. And we're still like, we have 2 songs from that same session of the Greystone single that are being mixed by Dave Ogilvy right now. And we're writing a few more that we're going to track over the winter. So that whole bunch is going to be another 12-inch, hopefully June 2025.
Nice.
Fuck yeah.
There you go.
So one of the things that we do is we have our guest sign a baseball.
Oh, cool. I don't know how I can do it.
I'm a baseball fan. Like Gizz, well, he's Mexican, so he has to be a baseball fan.
Gizz, so, are you a Dodgers fan too, Gizz?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he fucking is. If he
Yeah.
wasn't, we wouldn't be talking.
I actually used to have a button on my cut, Dodgers button, a pin.
I think you gave it to me.
No. When my father passed away, when the last time I walked by his coffin, I took it off my cut and I put it on him.
Oh man, that's heavy duty.
He was a hardcore Dodger fan.
Well, we got to go to see a game when I get out there, man. Take me.
Yes,
dude.
I've never been to Chavez Ravine, so you will have to accompany me so I don't get the shit beaten out of me.
Oh no, that's not gonna happen.
You can wear whatever uniform you want as long as it's not a Giants uniform.
Yeah.
Well, do you guys hate the Giants more than the Padres or what? Who's the bigger rival?
Okay, so if I could have a fantasy in the world, it would literally be the Padres are flying out of the Met Stadium to go back to wherever the fuck they came from, and then the San Francisco Giants are flying into New York to play the Yankees. If there was any possible way that the Giants plane could crash into the Padres plane, and fly full of fuel into either one of the, like actually both of the Yankees at the New York Stadium.
City Field is where the Mets play.
Every single buddy died. All the Yankees, all the Padres, all the Mets, and all the Giants died in one plane crash.
Let them go on a cruise.
I'm like, nah, I'm good. You can act like, who's your team? What you got?
I'm a Mariners fan, man.
Dude, I love the Mariners.
Expos and Mariners. And
Expos,
we know what happened to the Expos, right? I mean,
Major League Baseball's a bunch of ass clowns.
Yeah, they had Marquise Grissom and all the Larry Walker, and I mean they had the best team in the league, and then there was a strike, and that was that.
The Mariners are the best team in baseball ever. They had A-Rod, Jay Buhner, they had fucking Randy Johnson. The Mariners were something special. And what they do, they
squandered it.
They went America. And they trumped it up.
Traded Randy to the D-backs, and
they
traded Cano to the Mets, and blah blah. Yeah,
the Mariners were awesome at one point. So I love it. I do love the Mariners. My most of my family's in Washington.
So when are you coming to LA?
Yeah, when you here?
Oh gosh, I haven't made any plans, but we gotta talk off air to make something happen. Get scheming here, I've been talking to Carmela from Short Dogs Grow about going to San Francisco. So yeah, I'm gonna scheme about going to LA. But I mean, it would be ideally during baseball season, right? And here's the problem: the Dodgers
are the greatest thing in the history.
Do the Dodgers do spring training in Arizona or Florida?
Arizona now.
Yeah.
The Dodgers are Cactus League, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we got to go to Arizona first, because that's the first baseball activity that's going to happen.
You know what?
So maybe we got to
Arizona for a podcast at a Dodgers spring training game against the Mariners.
That'd be sick.
That'd be sick as fuck.
Oh yeah, Ray, right on.
All right, so we got to pop off the air. We're gonna hit our sponsors, who are
Transplants Brewing Company in Palmdale, Meow Meows in Pasadena,
Headline Records
in Hollywood,
Jean-Luc,
and Riot Manufacturing in Las Vegas.
Bang! Do you got anything to pop off on us? Did we lose him?
No, I'm here, man.
Give me. What do you got for sponsorship?
Oh, I got nothing. Man. I got a shout out to Halo Creative in LA who did our video, Scott Gordon and Cherise 7. How about that? And Chad at No Rules PR.
Dude, fuck yeah.
All right, brother. Well, it was great talking to you, and look forward to meeting you in person finally.
Absolutely. Make it happen. Spring training, buddy.
We're going to send you a baseball. You're going to sign it. You can send it back to us. And if Gizz gets off his ass and gets the heat press material, we'll send you a T-shirt maybe.
Sick.
It's on him.
Cheers, boys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. All right, brother.
Hang around. We'll get off air for a minute if you want.
Copy that.
All right, buddy.
All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in again. Next week, we have Greg Wallace and Ike Robinson from the Electric Ferrets.
Fucking love Ike.
So it's going to be really funny.
Oh,
funny interview.
Ike, I'm going to break it. I'm bringing you, buddy. I'm bringing you.
So as per usual, every Monday, 7:00, you know what you should do?
Not fucking this.
Watch us. Such an idiot.
Oh, me?
Cheers.
I'm the idiot?
Cheers.
No, you don't.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Fuck off.
Cheers.